Hi everybody, I'm Kelly from Styring and I want to welcome you to Cellar Hunt. We're here today to share a pretty fun vertical with you that we found and kind of put together over the past few hours. So I want to thank Jillian, my daughter, who's right over here, helping me with the technology. She's going to be monitoring the chat and helping relay any important questions my way. All of your questions are important. If you chat to everyone, then I'll be able to actually look at them later on the tape. And then I'll be able to answer those questions for you. Right, so Jillian's reminding me not to, she of course didn't remind me to take my hair clips out, which I just did. But she did remind me that if you chat to everyone, then I'll be able to review it on the tape. If you chat just to panelists, then we'll only be able to see it live and we might miss something. So we don't want to miss any of your important questions. So a few minutes ago, we went in the cellar and we were thinking about what would be fun to do today. And I want to go ahead and show you what we found. So I'm going to share my screen, I hope. Here we go. I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to move to this slide. I'm going to make it a little bit bigger and then I'll play it. So here we are in the cellar at Styring. We're in a pretty similar area to where we were last week when we ran into the Fearless 2013 blend that we shared. This time though, we thought we'd pull from this case that we found at the same time. So while we were hunting for the Fearless, we found this 2013 estate. So all the 13s were kind of together. Then I remembered that we were featuring 2015 now on our lineup, and 2014 is nearby in the library. So we're gonna bring this upstairs and we're going to share it with you now. Okay, so we're back. So I have that beautiful 2013 estate Pinot Noir. Now we make 3 Pinot Noir here at Styring. We make our signature, which is a very typical ribbon ridge fine Pinot Noir that kind of exemplifies our terroir in some nice, beautiful ways. Then we go up a notch in smoothness and bigness, so to speak, and that's our estate. So usually that's fewer barrels than our signature. And then our final offering is the Wit Reserve, and that's usually our best barrel or two from a vintage, and we don't make one every year. We only do that when we think we really have one. So this is that kind of middle of the road Styring Pinot Noir. So 2013 was a pretty interesting year for weather. It was characterized by extremes. So we had constant, or pretty consistent, I should say, warm weather from bud break through September. But we also had about 10 days of rain right in the middle of harvest season. So you could choose to harvest before or after. And that rain, we could see it coming. It was caused by an offshore tropical typhoon. It never really came to shore, but it kind of hovered offshore and it sent a lot of moisture our way. So this is something that I understand only happens every 30 years or so. So it's a pretty unique event. And that created this conundrum of, you know, do you harvest earlier or later? So a lot of lower elevation vineyards actually did harvest before, but we picked after. So it was kind of into October-ish when that happened. So this wine, I'm gonna pour a little bit. I know this will be even better this evening, and it shouldn't be any huge secret that I'll be enjoying all of these wines later this evening because they're open, and you're not here to enjoy them with me. So I'm getting some really pretty woody notes. I'm getting some nice spiciness in the nose. It's really opened up in the cellar. So again, the longer this wine is in the glass, the more enjoyable it's going to be. Oh yeah, that's got a lot of really pretty. So the level of ripeness in this bottle is indicative of how long we let the crop ripen. So the fact that the fruit hung a little longer, or got a little bit more moisture. It's going to take up a lot of water actually. We're fortunate in that we made some decisions early on in the vineyard to be a dry farm. So it would take a lot of rain to have really any uptake or any effect that late in the game on our plants. But it's really got a beautiful, it's a big wine. It's got a, again, because it had so much ripeness when it came into the winery. So it's going to tend more towards some of that spiciness and that kind of power of almost a Zin, but it's still very much a a Ribbon Ridge Pinot Noir. It's got a nice, dense, concentrated flavor. This was 92 rated in Wine Enthusiast. So that's the 2013. The next wine that I want to pour for you is right here in our library. So we feature a select number of bottles in the library area that represent some things that we even have more of in the cellar. So if you're ever visiting us and you see a bottle here and you say, I'd really like that, you're welcome to purchase this bottle, but ask us, because we also sometimes have cases of those in the cellar. So I noticed that there was this 2014. So I'm going to put that right beside the 13. And I'll go ahead and open that now. So 2014, Jillian, what are you laughing at? You're laughing at me because I'm narrating what I'm doing? Okay. My daughter's really giving me a hard time. You know, this video stuff is hard for us grown-ups. I know you digital natives, you grew up doing this stuff, but we get nervous and do our hair and, you know, we get prepared for this kind of stuff. So the 2014 was very warm weather year. So it led to early harvest throughout the valley. We did pick in September, so you know, a few weeks earlier than 2013 because we didn't have that late rain and that kind of cool spell. So the decisions were easier in some ways. We were really fortunate that up on the ridge we had one nice week of cooler weather and a little bit of rain later, but nothing like the year before. You know, we'd like a little bit of rain to come through right before harvest just to rinse everything off. You know, it's a little dusty up here on a dirt road or a dry farm, so a little bit of moisture on those grapes is really nice. It helps us out as we start to, you know, prepare the wine. So Ribbon Ridge, you know, had this nice little bit of soft rain, a little bit cooler weather, and that allowed us to really hang into full flavor. So we didn't have to rush and pick early. We were able to, you know, with a little bit of risk tolerance, we were able to let it hang long. So what we risk, if there is rain uptake, which is pretty rare up here, but if that happens, you can have bunch rot. So the grapes split, sort of like the tomatoes in your garden, except they split on the inside of the bunch, and then the whole bunch sloughs off onto the ground, and you lose the cluster. It also wouldn't taste very good if you brought that in and tried to process it when it was in that process of rotting. It probably wouldn't taste great. So it's a pretty fine line between, do I pick early when the grapes are big and fat and juicy and they have the right amount of sugar and you could go, or do you wait longer and get more flavor? And we believe up here on the ridge that if we, at Styring in particular, if we wait longer, we get rewarded by that at some risk and definitely some losses. So you'll have raisoning and you'll have sloughing and you have birds and raccoons and everything else that wants to eat the grapes at that time of year. But we think it's worth it. So this 2014, this is a wine that's been described as lush, and lush from the standpoint of it's not just cherry or it's not just raspberry, but it's cherry pie. It's like raspberry compote. It's got some kind of really melded aromatics to it. It's quite beautiful. It's got a nice soft but big tannin. I don't know if that makes sense exactly. There's tannin in it that's noticeable, but it's soft. It's really smooth. It's got an elegant wash across the palate. I think the press said, or Wine Enthusiast specifically said it glides effortlessly. And they called it yummy, which I think that's probably a technical term. I struggle with vocabulary when it comes to describing wine, but I think I know what yummy is, and I think I agree that this has a nice yummy flavor to it. They also noted some caramel. I'm getting a little bit more like a vanilla flavor, but I think there's a lot in this glass to interest anyone. And then the last wine that I want to open tonight is the 15, which is here. And this is where we keep a lot of the new products are featured up in this area. So what can I tell you about 2015? Well, it was similar in some ways to 2014, with the exception of that cool rainy week at harvest. I wouldn't even call it rain. It was like a misty rain in 2014. We did not have that in 2015. So in some ways, you're really holding on for dear life as you're racing toward full sugars and harvest, potentially earlier than we might like, because again, we like to wait for the flavors to come in. So again, we're fortunate on the ridge in a couple ways. This time, I think what benefited most of us up here is the vine maturity that we have. So half of our vines were planted in 2003. Half of them were planted closer to 2008, although that's probably another story for another day. That second planting, that was a tough one. But we're fortunate that that maturity of the vines really helps with to keep some of those sugars under control at the last minute. So the vines don't, go off the chain trying to produce as much sugar as they can. And it also helps keep the acids higher through the heat. So we didn't suffer as much from the heat. On the other side of that coin though, this wine is fairly high in alcohol. So the last two were in that 7 to 15 range, and this one is as well. So what's really important when you have a wine that's that high, pardon me, I got distracted by this beautiful glass of wine. When you have a wine that's that high in alcohol, it's pretty important that the flavors be well balanced, or else it'll just be a big alcohol bomb, and that's usually not what we're looking for up here. On the plus side too, if you have that much flavor in the wine, then it'll cellar better as well. So one of the things that happens in the cellar is that as the alcohol is fairly high, the flavors start to drop off in the cellar. And so then you get more alcohol prominence in the taste. And that's not something that I particularly enjoy. I want to really enjoy the flavors of the wine. So if you start off with a robust flavor, then it's going to balance out that alcohol. And over time, it's going to cellar beautifully. So there's a question.
So 2014, is it comparable to 2012 or?
2014 is comparable to 2012 in some ways. Of course, 2012 had the benefit of more even weather, and also it's a couple years older. So a lot of the progression that you get from just time in the cellar is there. So 2012, I think, is pouring better than 14 at this point. But those of you who know us know that we cellar everything for at least a year before we sell it to you, because we want you to be impressed with the way it tastes now and be rewarded if you save it, but not be penalized if you open it now. So if you buy a bottle from us, we've already aged it for at least a year. So they're both pouring nicely. I would say the 12 was one of our most spectacular years on the ridge, and it's cellaring beautifully. So if you have that in the cellar, you can drink it now. You will be rewarded for your patience. If you held it another year or two, you would be even further rewarded. Same thing for 14, but it's a very enjoyable wine now. Okay, anything else? Okay, all right. So again, this was reviewed by Wine Enthusiasts. This received 94 points. They called it sexy, they called it rich. I don't know about that. What I do know is that the barrel, I can really get a lot of the barrel aromatics in this. So I'm getting those chocolatey, caramelly highlights and lots of fruit, but in a really harmonious balance. And I like to, think of that harmony as how that flavor balances out that alcohol as well. So those are the three wines that I have to share with you tonight. I'm super excited by the fact that they're all now open and I'll get to enjoy them. I believe we're having some Indian curry, but maybe I'll just enjoy some with some fresh bread first so I can particularly enjoy the flavors. We want to let everyone know that we're continuing club trunk pickup the next 2 Saturdays from 12 to 3. And we're offering complimentary third-day shipping east of the Rockies and complimentary ground shipping west of the Rockies on case orders. If you want to order less than a case, just call us up and we'll try to make that good for you. We want everybody to have the wine they need right now. And then we're trying to figure out how to offer safe curbside paying. Those of you who know us know that we don't have a robust e-commerce setup on our website. So we're trying to figure out if we do that by phone, if we do that, how we actually offer that to you, because we think that'll be the safe way to make sure that our local supporters can get wine during this time, even if they're not in our club. So let me review one more thing before I sign off, and that was, I'm going to share my screen again. I just wanted to review the 3 wines that we tasted tonight. We have the, oops, one more slide. There we go. The 2013 estate, which received a 92 rating. We have the 2014 estate, which received a 93 rating. We have the 2015 estate, which received a 94 rating. So we're just going to keep trying to push that higher. We are offering all of those at $45 a bottle. We have established that price point in 2008. We have not changed our price in 12 years on the estate line item. So we're honoring that even for the 13 and 14 from the library. Again, complimentary shipping on cases, and then 20% discount for club members. We will honor that for you as well. So let me go back to video. Any other questions in the chat, Jill? Are we good? All right, well, we just want to say cheers, and until we see you again, please raise a glass and love each other, because that's the most important thing. Take care, and thanks for joining us from Styring. Good night.